All right, let's turn now to the G5 underdog parlay of the week. I'll get it started here. This is really showing a lot of courage on my part because, as I mentioned, I watched San Diego State play offense for in excess of 60 minutes because that game had to go to overtime. They used two quarterbacks. To borrow a phrase from our producer, it looks as though when they're supposed to be practicing offense at San Diego State, they just go play pickup basketball. It looked like 11 strangers had met right before the game. And they're like, hey, what are we going to run offensively? Like, are we going to call everything on Huts or to like, it was horrific. But here's the thing against this Air Force team coming off a nice win against Boise State, I believe it was 24-17. Everyone knows it's a strength versus strength situation. Air Force has the number one rushing game in the country. They run the ball more than anyone. They're second in rush percentage. That's their bread and butter. San Diego State, they love to stop the run. They get creative with the players that they bring down to the box, stunts, everything else. They're going to be prepared for this game. And Kirk Maddox, their defensive coordinator, has done a wonderful job on the season. It's the reason why they're limiting teams to just 2.3 yards per carry. And what that translates to me, when I've already spoken eloquently about the deficiencies of the San Diego State offense, it's really going to come down to a low scoring game. And the fact that there's such a huge differential in special teams is the reason why I like San Diego State plus 160 on the money line here. Ariza, who I talked about, is honestly, someone who could be in the conversation for both the Guy and Groza awards. So he gives them a top 5 special teams just on his own in terms of touchbacks, field position, being able to cash in from anywhere inside of 57 yards on field goals. This is a guy who is going to play a role in this game. But Air Force is just as bad as San Diego State is good. When you look at their numbers in terms of field goal conversion rate, they're in the bottom 15 nationally. Same thing in terms of net punting yardage. I think it's going to come down to field position. And because of that, when you probably factor in, you're going to get 7 to 10 punts on both sides if both defenses play the way that they should. That's going to be a lot of yardage that's going to go in favor of the Aztecs. So, kind of those hidden yards and, the third category of football that head coaches love talking about the importance of, but casual gamblers, I should say, do not really get into the weeds on. I think that's going to be the deciding factor here. So I'll go with the Aztecs.
I don't know. I like Air Force a lot. Obviously, they were my moneyline underdog last year. I think or last week. I think Air Force is really good. So this probably isn't something I'll play. But hey, I'm rooting for you for our parlay's sake. But I don't know. I like Air Force a lot in this spot. I don't trust San Diego State's offense at all.
I mean, there's nothing to like. And last week they also couldn't block at all to get Greg Bell out of the starting blocks. So maybe they're able to do something a little bit different. Personnel, bring some more tight ends in, work some H-backs in to open up some lanes for him, because if he doesn't crack 100 yards, it's difficult to envision them scoring 17 points. And I think that's at the least what they're going to need to win this football game. All right, who do you have? Usually it's me going more ambitiously, but leading with a plus 160. Do you have something a little bit juicier than that?
Nope. I'm playing safe. I hated this. This was the hardest week for me to find an underdog, to be honest. Because every line in here seemed to be like a team that was like +2, or it was like you're going to a team that's +9. I'm playing it safe. I'm going with another MAC game. A game I feel a coin flip. I'll take the plus money. I'll take Toledo plus 110 against Western Michigan. I love Western Michigan, so I hate betting against them. But again, I think this is kind of a coin flip. Toledo returned the most tarp in the entire country. Their offense was great. Their defense was great last year. They kind of got off to a weird start where they hung against Notre Dame and looked really good, and then the following week laid a dud and lost to Colorado State in kind of a weird game where no one scored on offense. Then they beat Ball State. Then they smoked UMass. In the last 2 weeks, they've lost 2 heartbreakers. They lost to Northern Illinois by 2. And then they lost to Central Michigan by 3 last week in a game where their kicker missed 3 field goals. But I just think the Toledo team, is better than we've seen. And I think at some point you're going to see him kind of rely on that experience and put it together. Carter Bradley and Daquan Finn were battling throughout most of the year. It looks like Finn has taken full control of that job. Last week was the first week we didn't see Bradley at all. And Finn gives them kind of a dynamic element with his legs. He has 6 touchdowns on the ground this year. And paired with running back Bryant Koback, who's been great, he's got 5 scores. They both average over 5 yards per carry to give them a dynamic rushing attack. And that's where Western Michigan has struggled. They rank 72nd in rushing success on defense, 120th at preventing big plays, and they're 74th in tackling. For Toledo, on the other hand, they're second in the country in tackling. They're sixth at defending the run. They're ninth at preventing finishing drives. Their defense has been awesome. And that's where I think they're going to live on this game. And that's where I think they come out with the upset. You know, Western Michigan did blow out Kent State last week, but they had one of the weirdest box scores I've ever seen. Caleb Ellaby, who we talked about at length on this show, we both love him. He's awesome. He threw for 307 yards and 3 touchdowns. He threw for over 300 yards and only 3 players had a catch in that game. I don't think I've ever seen that. I've never seen a player throw for over 300 yards and only throw to 3 players. Sky Moore had 8 receptions. Jalen Hall had 5 and Anthony Torres had 2. That was all of their pass catchers. For this Toledo team, I think that makes it easy for them. You know, they're 12th in the country in coverage, and they essentially have to cover 2 guys. They essentially have to shut down Moore and Hall. And I think this defense is good enough to do it. And then they're awesome against the run. So I'm going to take Toledo at plus money. You don't just go into the Glass Bowl and come away with an easy win. So give me Toledo here at plus 110. I know it's not a fancy one, but hey, if it wins, it wins.
I think enough time has passed to ease the wound of Colorado State upsetting Toledo in the Glass Bowl. And honestly, Colorado State has proven to be frisky throughout the season. That was a team that I also will put my hand up. I figured they were going to be one of the 10 worst teams nationally, and they've proven to be much more competent out in the Mountain West. So
their kicker's awesome. Their kicker has made like 12 straight field goals or something. Like the one of the games they won recently, he was like 6 for 6. It was like a school record. He's been awesome.
This is like the hashtag official special teams version of the Group of 5 deep dive. We're giving out a lot of love to the specialists here.